I woke up reborn, 7 days before the zombie virus outbreak. It was the day my boyfriend's mom forced a breakup on me. As my memories came back, I remembered she offered me $2 million to leave her son, but I refused. A few days later, I lost my job, got kicked out by my landlord for some random reason, and spent the outbreak hiding. To survive, I lost my dignity and myself. I barely scraped by in the city ruins. Just half a year later, while cornered by zombies, my so-called friends sacrificed me to save themselves. The memory of being eaten alive still haunts me. Now, given another chance, what should I choose? My thoughts were interrupted by the sudden ding of a text. Miss Mila, I'll be at the Blue Mountain Cafe in 10 minutes. It was from Nova, my boyfriend's mom, precisely like last time. I snapped out of it, washed my face, grabbed my bag, IDs, and put on some comfy sneakers. When I rushed to the Blue Mountain Cafe at my doorstep, Nova was already there. The place was quiet, not even a server in sight, clearly rented out. Nova held a Blue Mountain coffee, and a cold latte sat across from her, likely ordered for me. This familiar scene gave me chills, making me feel the virus really would hit in 7 days. "Hello, ma'am," I said as I sat down, quietly observing Nova. Chanel dress, Patek Philippe watch, Cartier jewelry, and a massive pink diamond ring. I missed it all last time, too nervous about meeting his mom. Now, I realized she was flaunting her status. Seeing me sit there dumbstruck pleased her. She picked up her Hermes bag, pulling out a bank card. "Here's $2 million. You get what I mean, right?" I understood her all too well. How could an orphan like me pair with her wealthy son? Though it was him who chased me first. Last time, because of pride and tears from being humiliated, I refused. But now, I calmly sipped my iced latte, showing off a shameless gold digger vibe. "So to you, your son's worth just $2 million, not even as much as what you're wearing," I said, smirking. Nova looked furious, but she quickly hid a smile. "How much do you think Nathan's worth? Name your price." I didn't know Nathan's family's wealth. He was always low-key, wearing the $10 shirts I bought him without fuss, but I guessed she had a limit. $50 million, plus that watch, necklace, and earrings. I continued, "No card, just a bank transfer, and the jewelry can be converted to cash. If she was going to flaunt them, I might as well take them." I eyed her sparkling diamonds greedily. I could act if needed. Nova was stunned at my cheek, not expecting I'd even ask for her accessories. "Fine, give me your account details, leave this city today, and don't come back," she spat. I gave her a sweet smile, taking my card and ID from my bag, setting them on the table. The delivery of a transferred $8 million made my bank account buzz. I smiled, picked up my card and ID, stood up, and thanked her. "Thank you," I said, leaving the cafe with a bounce. I headed straight to the airport, booking the earliest flight back to my hometown in Yun Province. "Nathan, did you hear that? I always said Mila was after your money. She was just playing hard to get." I left Nova's triumphant words behind, unable to hear them anyway. Before leaving, I sent Nathan a breakup text and blocked him. I'm a woman of my word. I had just graduated and only stayed in New York for a job because I wanted to be with Nathan. Now, that was unnecessary. I called my landlord to terminate the lease and boarded my flight home. My hometown in Yun Province is peaceful, surrounded by mountains and water, with good vibes. My parents left me a 3-story house with a wall around it that is more like a villa built by the government to enhance the nearby scenic area. Back home, I first withdrew a good chunk of money and got in touch with a renovation company to work on the walls, strengthen windows and doors, and asked them to cover the roof deck with soil for gardening. They took the job fast since I paid well. I made sure to tell them I wanted solid security doors, walls over 3 meters with barbed wires, and all windows fortified with bars, ensuring no one could break in easily. The contractor quickly understood I was serious. "The young girl living alone has a great sense of security. Don't worry, I'll make sure to build it strong and solid for you." I thought about it and realized a brick wall might not be the safest bet. Zombies are fast and stronger than the average person. What if the wall collapses? Can I trouble you to add a tightly spaced iron fence inside the brick wall? The price isn't an issue. I paid half the deposit right there and then. The foreman assured me with a smile that it'd be done in 3 days. Money truly does move mountains. It's like a superpower. Once I left the renovation to the foreman, I changed into some old clothes and took a cab to the car dealership in the city. I bought a big truck and had the seats in the back taken out. With my driving school's lessons replaying in my head, I stumbled my way onto the road. Half an hour later, I'd become a pro, weaving smoothly through traffic. I headed to the largest grain and oil market. I made an excuse about hosting a big party at home and started buying up loads of grain, oil, rice, and flour. By the time I was heading back, not only was my truck packed to the brim, but I had 2 small delivery trucks following me as well. As soon as I got home, I stored all the food in the warehouse on the first floor. There were already 2 lonely bags of rice left from last year's harvest by my late parents. Sadly, they passed away before they could eat any of it. My big operation had already caught the attention of the neighbors. Even before I could say anything, the driver from the grain store chimed in, preparing for a banquet. "Is she getting married?" I nodded nonchalantly and said I'd invite everyone over when the date was set, then hurried off again. Started renovating as soon as she got home. Hasn't she graduated college yet? Did she snag a rich husband or something? How is she getting married without a man in sight, and why is she running around alone? With how she looks, maybe she's being kept or is someone's side girl. I ignored the whispers. I've seen those envious and jealous looks since I was young. After unloading everything, I locked the warehouse door and drove my truck straight to the outdoor goods store. Backpacks, sleeping mats, pads, kerosene lamps, climbing ropes, jackets, down coats, cooking equipment, multifunctional water bottles, water purifiers, high-powered binoculars, flashlights, a climbing axe, Swiss Army knives. When I noticed the store owner had batons and pepper spray in the corner, I couldn't help but think. I pulled out a wad of cash and chatted with him a bit. Sure enough, he also had electric stun batons and animal traps. I bought 3 sets of everything that seemed useful, nearly emptying the store. We arranged to have it delivered later on, and I headed to the wholesale snack and beverage market to continue the spree. Instant noodles, self-heating hot pots, pre-cooked rice meals, canned fruits, canned foods until the truck could take no more. I ordered other storage-friendly goods like biscuits and candy. Next, I parked near a pharmacy. I asked the staff to prepare enough standard medication for a 10-person camping trip. Then I hit another pharmacy to buy different types of medicine the same way. By the time there was barely room to stand in the truck, I drove back home. After running back and forth about a dozen times, emptying the truck, I stored everything in an empty room on the 2nd floor. The first day, the foreman's building materials weren't fully ready. The workers had all gone home for the day. He said they'd work extra tomorrow to catch up. Half a day's work had all the doors replaced with burglar-proof models and the foundation of the new wall taking shape. Things were moving along. Exhausted, I was about to rest when I heard an engine outside. It was the outdoor store delivery. Once all the supplies were stored away, I felt so tired, I didn't want to move. After a quick wash, even though I was exhausted, I couldn't sleep. With a huge secret weighing on me, I had no one to share it with. Holding my phone, I mindlessly scrolled through feeds. I couldn't help but anonymously drop a message on various social platforms. The world might end in 7 days. If you believe me, stock up on food and water, lock up tight, and don't go outside. Some might think I'm crazy, but it's all I can do, unsure if this zombie virus will hit in 7 days. Slowly, I drifted off into sleep. At 4 a.m., 2 men's agonized screams pierced the night. In the darkness, I didn't turn on the light and chuckled coldly. I grabbed my stun baton and flashlight and made my way downstairs. Peering through the peephole, I saw 3 figures under the moonlight. 2 were crouched, clutching a leg and cursing under their breath. The other was on the ground, trying to help free them. I frowned. Clearly, the animal traps weren't dense enough. I was debating whether to call the cops or handle it myself when another muffled scream broke through. The helper had stepped on another trap while pulling the first one. Great, I didn't need to do anything after all. Satisfied with my heavy door and chain lock, I headed back to my bedroom on the 3rd floor. Soon, I heard some rustling outside, then silence. In the morning, when I looked out the window, the spots where the traps had been set were cleared. The culprits and traps were gone. I collected the remaining traps and waited for the foreman. Half an hour later, he arrived with a large crew and 2 truckloads of materials. I locked up, gave a couple of instructions to the foreman, and drove away. The priority was still to stock up on meds. Even a small cold can be deadly when food and warmth are scarce. I bought cold medicine, fever reducers, stomach medicines, blood pressure and diabetes meds, and even oxygen tanks. I visited almost every pharmacy in town, filling up my truck little by little. Once the medicines were set, I parked the truck in a safe spot and took a cab to the farmer's market to buy seeds. Every kind of vegetable and fruit seed available in stores, I got at least 3 packs. After storing the seeds back in the truck, I headed to the city's largest appliance store. I bought large freezers, fridges, solar water heaters, solar panels, air conditioners, power banks, rice cookers, induction cooktops, grills, air fryers, a complete set of knives and cookware, and most importantly, a gas stove and tanks. I paid the money, left my address, and set up a delivery time for the items, which was set for 2 p.m. After quickly finishing lunch, I headed straight to the farm equipment market. My main targets were sharp, lightweight cordless weed trimmers, high-power cordless chainsaws, and fire axes. Against zombies that need to be decapitated to be killed, these are useful weapons that I can easily buy. I ordered 5 sets in one go, arranging with the owner to deliver them to my small house the day after tomorrow. Then, I found a cafe to sit down and carefully wrote a checklist on paper. The secure home is almost ready. I have stocked up on a lot of food and prepared medicines and weapons. The only things left are a vast amount of drinking water and clothing for all seasons. I didn't bring any luggage when I came back, so I needed to prepare clothes, shoes, and socks. As the sun was about to set, I tirelessly headed to the largest mall in the city. I went straight to the sports section and started shopping. Sports clothes and shoes are obviously my top picks. I bought sportswear for all seasons and various lightweight sports shoes, along with underwear, socks, towels, and blankets. I had enough money in my account to buy anything I wanted. By the time I returned home with dozens of bags of clothes in the mall's car service, the wall was almost half built. I specifically asked the foreman to add steel bars inside the wall for added strength. Before sunset, the workers had just finished building the wall and started installing sharp spikes in the twilight. On the third day, I was out early to bring the medicines home and lock them in the house before the workers arrived. I stayed home in the morning, waiting for the appliance store to deliver my purchases. Once the workers installed and tested all my appliances, my fortress was nearly complete. By afternoon, the outer walls were entirely done, and a spacious, heavy-duty, double-door security gate was installed. The inner iron fence was also successfully poured. After settling the final payment with the foreman, I finally felt a bit secure looking at the solid wall and gate. The shiny security door reflected my thin figure, and I frowned as I drove to the store to buy some fitness equipment. Treadmills, dumbbells, jump ropes, hand grippers, I bought everything the owner recommended. Then, I drove home with a carload of bottled water. I was running back and forth until nighttime. Looking at the room full of water bottles, I admired my own potential. Turns out I am not as powerless as I thought. With trembling hands, I lay in bed, opened my shopping app, and started a frenzied shopping spree. It was the 618 sale, and a lot of people were stocking up, so I seized the opportunity. Toilet paper, toothpaste, toothbrushes, laundry detergent, shampoo, and sanitary tampons. I bought 10 boxes of each. Compressed biscuits, chocolate, canned food, and my favorite spicy sticks. There's no such thing as too many. Estimating that I'd hit the purchase limit on one platform, I switched to another. I contacted customer service every time I placed an order with only one request: next day delivery. On the fourth day, it was raining hard. Watching the downpour from my window, I had a bad feeling. I went out early to the farmer's market and bought a carload of fresh vegetables, fruits, and fresh meat, filling the fridge completely before I started catching up on the news on my phone. Before the last zombie virus outbreak, it had also rained heavily for a day and a night, then people started biting others. As the situation escalated, 5 or 6 hours later, the zombie virus broke out nationwide and worldwide. New York is densely populated and a transportation hub. Once the first zombie appeared, the city was quickly overrun, giving no one any time to react. Now that I'm in a remote town in Yunnan province, it's probably much better than being in New York. The trending topics on social media were still boring celebrity gossip, with no special news. Underneath my posts, people didn't believe me, which made me chuckle and shake my head before turning off my phone and going to sleep. What I didn't know was that, in the middle of the night, there were countless reports of violent biting incidents, quickly trending to the top spot. My sleep was restless, haunted by dreams of being thrown into a group of zombies. The horrific zombies, the pain of being bitten, felt so terrifying and real that it turned into a nightmare. I was woken up by a phone call from the delivery guy. Blinking my bleary eyes, I looked at my sturdy wall and exhaled deeply. I was still alive, and that felt great. Under the delivery guy's curious gaze, I opened my gate and let him drop off the goods. The first floor was already filled with food and water, so I placed all these daily supplies on the second floor. Luckily, this small building had about 100 square meters on each floor, with a garage below. Each apartment was spacious enough. By the afternoon, all the things I had ordered last night had arrived. I drove out to get another box of potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, and dried vegetables, foods that don't need cooling and keep well for long. At the market, there were noticeably more people buying groceries than before. Many people were carrying big bags, rushing around with anxious expressions. My right eye kept twitching. After quickly paying a high price for what I wanted, I headed home immediately. On the way, I tuned the car's radio to the news channel, and sure enough, I heard the news I dreaded. The night was filled with biting incidents, and the government urged everyone to stock up on food and stay home as much as possible. My heart sank. I was confused. The biting incidents had started early, which meant what I experienced in my past life wasn't a dream. Is the zombie virus really going to break out sooner than last time? But last time, the government didn't release any statements. These biting incidents were just trivial matters in daily life. Something feels different. At this moment, we're still about 5 or 6 hours from the full outbreak of the zombie virus. In my mind, it felt like a countdown to the end of the world, with the clock ticking away. Once home, I unloaded the truck and hurried to continue stocking up. You can never have too many supplies. I tried to choose less crowded markets and supermarkets to grab whatever I could. With just 2 hours left on my countdown, I headed to the gas station with an empty car. I filled up the tank and spent a lot of money to buy a whole vehicle full of gasoline. On the way back, I drove cautiously, fearing a zombie would leap out and attack my car. Luckily, I made it back to my little yard safely. After parking the car in the garage, the first thing I did was lock the gate securely. I secured the iron gate with a thick iron chain and leaned against it to calm my racing heart. I had to take several deep breaths to calm myself down. I just finished moving things from the car into the room when my phone alarm startled me. Reflexively, I turned off all the lights, pulled the curtains tight, and clamped my hands over my mouth as I crouched in the corner. It took me a while to realize I was overreacting. I stayed in the dark, sitting on the floor, and turned on my phone. In just a few hours, news sites and social media exploded with reports about zombies. The zombie virus really broke out early. Looking at my stock of food and water, I laughed through tears. Soon, a news report from New York's government made my heart race. Attention everyone, the zombie virus has gone global. Please protect yourselves, stay indoors, lock your doors and windows. Don't turn on lights at night and avoid making noise. Only decapitating zombies will kill them. Check the people around you for wounds. How could the government figure out zombies are attracted to light and sound so fast? Could there be someone else, like me, who reincarnated and shared this info? Another report confirmed my suspicion. The government is taking action and will start rescue operations soon. There's an emergency shelter on a certain street in New York. You can go there for refuge. If we stick together, this disaster will pass. Reading this, my heart sank. In my past life, I'd spend over a month hiding with some other survivors, never knowing about shelters in New York. This time it's different. I turned off my phone and collapsed onto my bed, surprised to fall asleep so quickly. Middle of the night, loud banging on the door woke me up. A woman's voice came from outside. I peeked through the curtains and used binoculars from my third-floor window, silently watching. Mila, are you home? Open up and lend me some food, will ya? The city's swarming with zombies, and stores are empty. Yeah, Mila, you bought so much rice and flour. Let us borrow some. Everyone nearby knew about my stockpile. Under the moonlight, my binoculars captured 2 neighbor ladies at my door. The zombie news just broke, and they had their eyes on me, probably thinking I'm easy to bully. My family moved here generations ago, but locals always saw us as outsiders. When my folks passed, these people didn't even come by. 5 shadowy figures crouched by the walls, clearly there to steal more than just food. I chuckled silently. They'd charge in if I opened the door, trying to take everything, house included. Instead, they kept pounding the door loudly, completely ignoring the government's warning. Did they not know such noise might draw nearby zombies? Zombies don't have body heat, so I couldn't see them with my thermal binoculars. But as I scanned back, 2 shadows by the wall disappeared. Then I saw 2 men setting a wooden ladder against my wall. I smirked, noting the 2-meter steel fence. My double-walled barrier was for 2 reasons: zombies and people. In a post-apocalyptic world, human nature can get very ugly. People can be more terrifying than zombies. My steel wall had thorns all over it. Climbing it meant drawing blood. It's only the outbreak's first day. I wasn't letting anyone invade my space. I carefully went to the gym room and grabbed a recurve bow I bought with some workout gear. It's simple, lightweight, and easy to learn. I'd already learned how to use it at the store. Within 20 to 30 meters, my aim shouldn't be off. Even if it was, I had hundreds of arrows to practice with. I slung a quiver of arrows over my shoulder and positioned myself at a second-floor window facing the wall. Just as I readied to shoot, a cry came from below. Chaos erupted, with footsteps scattering and the ladder crashing down. Run, zombies, mingled with eerie moans of the undead. Outside the wall, zombies' bloodthirsty snarls were familiar yet terrifying. Despite it being peak summer, chills ran through me. I never thought the virus would spread so fast, hitting remote areas already. This was a sudden global disaster. No place was safe. I thought I was prepared, but just hearing the zombie sounds left me paralyzed. I bit back my fear, pinching myself to regain control. Pain snapped me back to my senses. I put down the bow and raised my binoculars again. The man on the ladder was the first to see zombies and jumped down instantly. The ladder's holder wasn't as lucky, tackled and bitten gruesomely. That distraction caused the rest to panic and run. Sadly, the loud banging had drawn more than one zombie. Another emerged from the darkness, bringing down the last fleeing man. One of the zombies was the old resident from the city outskirts. I remembered his face. Lucia, who lived next door, lagged slightly. Just 2 more steps to her door, but a zombie grabbed her arm. Her husband could have saved her by pulling her away. Instead, he pushed her out and slammed the door shut. Lucia wasn't bitten yet but was heartbroken. He just needed to help pull her, and she'd have been okay. Apparently, decades of marriage crumbled in the face of danger and death. Her face was still stunned and confused. With her first instinct, she might have escaped a zombie grasp alone. But being pushed, she was thrown to the zombie, which bit her arm. No turning back now. In 5 minutes, Lucia joined the ranks of the undead. Maybe it was the resentment and unwillingness, but while the other zombies moved on when there was no food, Lucia lingered at our doorstep, unwilling to leave. In just a few minutes, those once lively lives turned into cold zombies. I watched from the window for half an hour to make sure the zombies couldn't climb ladders. Only then did my legs give out and I slid to the floor. Once I calmed down, any trace of sleepiness was gone. I pulled out my phone, turned the volume way down, and started checking the news. The apocalypse had just begun, and the internet was still up, but it wouldn't last long. More infections meant internet, power, and water would eventually cut out. Late at night, the internet was ablaze with people sharing zombie stories across all platforms. Some were mourning loved ones turned zombies, while others showed off their supplies. The one constant was the glaring government announcements pinned at the top of every platform. I chuckled to myself, whoever knew about the zombie outbreak before it happened must have some serious connections to get the government to send those messages. But really, how many can New York's emergency shelters hold? Without them, most people are on their own. I've got enough supplies stashed to last me 2 years alone, maybe longer when the veggies I'm growing on the roof are ready. I hugged myself tight and whispered, Mila, you got this. Don't be scared. Just as I was giving myself a pep talk, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number, but I had a strange gut feeling it was Nathan. On the 5th ring, I picked up. The connection was shaky, but I knew from the breathing on the other end it was Nathan. I felt a bit guilty, worried he'd ask why I broke up with him and left without a word. But then, I quickly remembered I dumped him first. Last time around, after his mom passed, I blew up his phone with calls and texts, but got no reply. I only got a breakup text on the day I got fired. It was word for word what I had sent him days earlier. Mila, we're done. After that, the zombie outbreak happened, and I never saw him again until I was shoved into a horde of zombies. Nathan's raspy greeting broke my thoughts. Mila, you alright? I was about to tell him I took his mom's hush money and was doing fantastic when I heard a young woman's voice on the other end. She must have been close to Nathan since I could hear her softly yawning. Nathan, who you calling? It's late, you need some sleep for tomorrow. Calling me while lying next to another woman in the middle of the night, what's Nathan up to? I hung up abruptly, sitting in the dark, tears flowing uncontrollably. I gave a cynical smile and wiped away the tears. It's the apocalypse, romance can wait. Right now, survival is key. At dawn, I took a ladder and climbed up to the wall, dousing the collapsed ladder with gasoline and destroying it completely. The villagers seemed terrified after that night. Hardly anyone left their homes for the next few days. While the internet was still up, I downloaded a bunch of fitness and self-defense videos to my phone and computer. I also downloaded novels to kill time. Besides eating and resting, I trained relentlessly in the gym, focusing on stamina and archery. I didn't care about strength, just speed. I needed muscle memory so I could run faster when necessary. Practicing with a recurve bow was my priority. I made all the arrows sharp and pointy. After the zombie virus, the weather got weird, with the temperature suddenly jumping from the upper 80s to 104 Fahrenheit. With the AC blasting its cold air, I couldn't help but think how money really does buy happiness. The pricey silent AC was worth every penny. On the 7th day post-outbreak, I was enjoying a lazy afternoon nap when I got jolted awake by some faint chirping from the 2nd floor. It was soft yet urgent and impossible to ignore. Startled, I thought maybe something snuck into my small building without me knowing. I tiptoed out of bed, tucked a kitchen knife into my waistband, grabbed my recurve bow, and crept barefoot towards the 2nd floor. The sound was coming from the room I stored fruits and veggies in. I noticed the security door was ajar and remembered I had fetched a potato at noon and forgot to close it. The chirping continued through the door crack, so I crouched down to peek inside, gripping the bow tightly with sweaty hands. All I saw were 2 big fridges against the wall and a variety of storable veggies and dried goods. No sign of anyone. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, my heart sank again. I remembered the zombie-infected animals from last time. The sound was awfully similar to those gross zombie rats. Tiny, fast, and with sharp teeth, encountering a horde of those usually meant game over. Rarely would anyone survive an encounter with them. I tensed up, fearing that a stray zombie rat could have snuck inside unnoticed. But why hadn't they attacked me, instead hiding out in my veggie room? Zombie rats, like regular zombies, love to bite living beings. Eating regular food wasn't their thing. The rapid virus spread was largely thanks to them. Last time, our first step after finding camp was to check for zombie rats and seal every possible entry point. Not daring to go in recklessly, I raced back in the sweltering heat to gear up with hiking boots, a thick jacket, and gloves, then gently pushed open the veggie room door. It creaked, but there was no movement inside, just the persistent chirping. Step by careful step, I moved toward the noisy corner. No zombie rats, but a flock of recently hatched mini chicks nestled among the dried Chinese vegetables. 6. Why is it mini? Because it's a clutch of button quails. I remembered back a few days ago when the lady selling veggies slipped a bunch of tiny quail eggs in my arugula. I took the veggies into the storeroom and completely forgot about it. Turns out, some were fertilized. Now, they've all hatched. I was surprised, but also thrilled. I quickly set aside my gear and found a box to put those little chicks in. I work out a lot, which burns a ton of energy, so I eat meat like a beast. I've been debating if I should cut back, worried I might run out. But looking at these chicks, I felt confident I'd have a regular supply. Button quails are small, strong against diseases, eat little, and hatch quickly. They mature in just 45 days, and by 50 to 60 days, they start laying eggs. A lot of young folks keep them as pets for these reasons, enjoying daily fresh eggs. The veggie vendor's daughter loves collecting eggs from her quails, and the lady even showed me her daughter's pet quail videos. With a simple setup, you can keep them indoors. They're silent too, close the door and you can't hear them. Despite their size, they're prolific. If I can keep them alive, I'll have meat and eggs every day. It's a dream come true. Cradling the little guys, I almost wanted to kiss them. While I still had internet, I jumped on my phone to look up how to raise button quails. Using leftover boxes and plastic from packages, I cobbled together a little hatchery on the 3rd floor. Out of 15 chicks, 10 survived. When I wasn't working out, I watched them, utterly engrossed. I named each chick and chatted with them daily like a fool. They became my only companions during those lonely, dragged-out days. On day 10 of the zombie outbreak, the power and water were cut, and the internet was down. Despite the heat wave, I wasn't too worried because I had solar power and a house full of bottled water. My neighbors weren't so lucky. Restlessness among them grew. On day 15, I heard cars leaving at dawn. They never came back. 2 days later, there were noises of breaking windows and doors, then silence. In this relentless heat, my vegetables were dying, so I moved whatever I could save to the shade while fixing the tarp. Alongside the soil-covered rooftop, there was a pool that could hold water up to my knees. I had some fish in there, using the water mainly for flushing toilets, green and efficient. Lifting the tarp revealed live fish, though the water was only about 10 centimeters deep. I frowned, thinking I might need a dry toilet if rain didn't come soon. After organizing the rooftop, I scanned the surroundings with binoculars. A few houses nearby had broken doors and windows, likely looted. Then, I felt a gaze locked on me. It was creepy, so I ducked back inside. Looking through the lens again, I only saw zombies, but no one stalking me. I'm the guy with the stash, apparently a tempting target. It's not the thieves, but the idea of them that scares me, the sneakiness of a snake waiting to strike. I couldn't sit around doing nothing. I considered how I'd attack if I were them. Fixing the weaknesses I spotted, I got to work. I kept up everyday life, eating and sleeping as usual, waiting for the snake to make the first move. On the 30th day, the heat wave continued. Maybe they were ready or desperate, but as dawn broke, I heard engines revving outside my wall. Looking out, 2 black SUVs with metal bars on their windows were parked a few meters apart. Maybe fearing the zombies, it took a while for them to open the doors. Meanwhile, I casually finished my breakfast. 6 tall men got out, led by Bob, the cooperative head, and his idol son, Kai. The others seemed related. I hadn't seen them much before. The drivers stayed put, probably ready to bolt. I chuckled, especially considering I was alone. Their whole setup was overkill. They clearly knew their zombies, picking the less active early morning to move. Kai, towering over 6 feet, and Bob climbed the car roof quickly. Someone inside handed them a thick blanket. Together, they swung it over the barbed wall, covering the spikes. 3 others did the same on another side. With a recurve bow and prepared arrows, I waited on the 2nd floor. Soon, Kai and another guy stood on the wall, faced with my iron fence just meters away. They were stunned. I lit an oil-soaked arrow and aimed. A whooshing sound, Kai dodged, and it hit the blanket by his legs. Missed his junk, darn. Kai loves to loaf around, taking advantage of being the head son. always had a thing against folks like me, newcomers. 7 When I was in high school, this place hadn't been demolished and rebuilt. He often blocked me at the village entrance after school, doing a lot of disgusting things that left me with a psychological shadow for a long time. After that, I had my dad come pick me up every day, and he finally stopped. The dry blanket caught fire instantly. Moving forward was like stepping onto a floor full of animal traps. Kai awkwardly jumped back into his SUV. My first arrow hit, and I didn't hesitate to shoot a second one. Obviously, the guy didn't expect me to still have some tricks up my sleeve. He scrambled over the fence in a panic. I opened the door, grabbing the things I had prepared in advance, and moved our spare ladder to the iron fence. When I climbed up and peeked over the wall, these guys hadn't left yet, definitely still plotting something against me. You know, it's rude not to return the favor. Since you didn't appreciate the chance I gave you, don't blame me for what comes next. I lit the stuff in my hand, aimed carefully, and hurled it toward the SUVs. I threw over a dozen of them before stopping. The sound of breaking bottles and 2 explosions echoed around my house, immediately drawing in the nearby zombies. Lucky for me, a couple of those homemade Molotov cocktails hit perfectly, blowing out 2 tires on the SUVs. Now they were stuck. Vehicles can explode easily when on fire, forcing Bob's group to escape on foot. I quickly locked the door and watched from behind the 3rd floor curtains as the zombies chased them. At first, I thought Bob's luck was just awful, drawing this many zombies. As their screams got louder, I realized there were way more zombies than I expected. My heart sank. I quickly turned off everything in the house that made noise and moved the cage for my quail to the soundproof bathroom. I pulled shut all the curtains and watched from behind the heavy drapes as dozens of zombies, drawn by the chaos, wandered around. I did some quick math in my head. In my previous life, a month after the zombie outbreak, the number of zombies suddenly surged, causing waves of zombie hordes everywhere. Waves of undead roamed the cities, wrecking homes and turning more people into zombies, growing their pack. This seemed like the local zombies were gathering. A horde must be coming. Last time, to survive a zombie horde, I ended up selling my body. I lived like a zombie myself, struggling for scraps of food and water. I often asked myself what I was holding on for. To barely survive? To see him one last time and ask why? It's painful to think back, but this time, I'm sure I can survive the horde. For the next 3 days, more and more zombies gathered, forming a massive horde, like the whole city's zombies converged here. The groans of zombies filled the air, completely surrounding this place. I stayed on high alert, minimizing all noise during the day and not daring to turn on the lights at night. I didn't sleep, constantly listening for any sounds outside. I don't know how I made it through 3 days and nights like that. Thankfully, the horde just passed through. My tall, sturdy walls kept them from noticing my little building. Other houses in the village weren't so lucky. Many were trampled by the horde, and several villagers who didn't hide well were turned into part of it. 2 days later, the terrifying horde finally moved on. After its departure, a lot of the wandering zombies were gone too, and I could finally relax a bit at home. On the 35th day after the outbreak, the intense heat suddenly stopped. That night, strong winds and thunder indicated rain was on the way. I was overjoyed, running to the rooftop to retract the awning and fully expose the roof. I set out anything that could catch water, trying to collect as much rain as possible. Listening to the rain pitter-pattering that evening, I felt at ease. The hardest time was over, and I knew things would get better. The rain poured for 3 days and nights, washing everything clean. Even the air felt fresher. Once the rain stopped, temperatures returned to normal. Standing on the rooftop again, all I saw was the aftermath of the horde, a scene of ruin and desolation. I might be the only survivor in this area, but who knows when zombies might show up again outside. I stayed hunkered down in my fortress. The rain had refilled the rooftop water pool, and fish swam happily. I tilled the soil and planted seeds anew. The remaining cucumber and tomato seedlings survived stubbornly. Soon, they'd bloom and bear fruit. I spent my days watering the garden, taking care of the chickens, practicing archery, and working out. It was great. On the 60th day after the outbreak, I weighed myself and noticed I'd gained about 10 pounds. Looking at the dishes in front of me, savory rice with bacon, chilled cucumbers, sugared tomatoes, and carp soup, I thought, well, time to dig in. It's all muscle anyway. While cleaning the cage, I discovered 2 small eggs. With chickens come eggs, and with eggs come more chickens. I could already imagine that delicious feast of braised eggs and crispy fried chicken. On the 70th day, drones flew overhead with a looped recording. The Sea City shelter has been completed at X Street XX number. Survivors can head there for refuge. The government is working on clearing out zombies, so remember to stay safe. Let's unite and ride out this storm. The government reacted so fast. In just 2 months, they built a shelter even in my second-tier city. Last time, even by the time I was thrown into a zombie horde, the government hadn't secured New York, let alone helping other areas. Having been through an apocalypse once, I took the drone's announcement with skepticism. Could be a trick, waiting to lure those naive folks in with all their possessions. 8 inches of post-apocalyptic world. Trusting others is like betting your life. It's a life or death gamble, and I'm not betting lightly. I looked around at my belongings, content to chill at home. Days later, after dinner, I found a little radio my dad got me in elementary school, hidden in a corner of my room. Feeling a bit nostalgic, I got some batteries, put them in, and, surprisingly, the radio still worked. I put on the earphones and fiddled with it for a while, and out of nowhere, Nathan's voice came through. It was like I'd seen a ghost in broad daylight. The voice on the radio was still warm, but now carried a touch of weariness. Hello, survivors. This is New York Radio. I'm Nathan. Do not trust the rumors spread by drones recently. Official shelters are in New York, City A, City S, and City Z, while those in City K and City W are still under construction. Other cities don't have government-affiliated shelters, so be careful. The government is organizing armed forces to clear the zombies, so keep holding on. New York Radio will broadcast live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. on frequency 89.66 MHz. Please stay tuned. Lastly, if anyone sees a girl named Mila, please tell her I'm waiting for her in New York. Thank you all. Then, someone else took over and talked about tips and survival info for dealing with zombies. I didn't really pay attention. I just sat on the edge of my bed, dumbfounded. Was Nathan looking for me? Am I dreaming? The following week, I set my alarm and tuned into 89.66 MHz every time. I swear I was just curious about the zombie crisis updates, not Nathan's voice. The announcers changed often and the broadcast times varied. For almost a month, I didn't hear Nathan again. It felt like I'd imagined hearing him. But the broadcasts did bring positive news, like the government organizing experts to work on a zombie virus vaccine, or troops clearing safe zones. Listening to the radio became my way to fend off loneliness. I stopped hoping to hear from him again. On day 100 of the zombie outbreak, I hatched a second batch of quails. The chives and bok choy on the roof were thriving. The chirps of these little critters made me smile, but the grin didn't even reach my eyes before the loud roars of cars and bikes erupted outside. More than one vehicle, for sure. I locked up the coupe and grabbed my recurve bow. From the window, I saw 2 armored jeeps and large bikes. On top of the jeep were 2 drones. 8 guys and 2 girls were outside my building, talking loudly and carelessly. Yo, Kai, is this the place? Nice spot. Sturdy walls, good locks, perfect for a base. You're sure only one girl lives here? You didn't lie, right? Relax, boss. She's a lone wolf. Her family died before the outbreak. I swear she's the only one here, and she's a looker, like a movie star. She'll make the boss real happy, but watch out for her archery skills when we go in. It's Kai's voice. Didn't think he survived, and now he's got backup. Damn him for eyeing my place. Come on, our boss isn't scared of special forces, let alone one woman. If you're scared, Kai, just stay back and let us work. I heard he almost got shot where it hurts last time. He's probably scarred now. Shut up. Kai, clearly annoyed, and that bald leader guy, signaled them to hush. I couldn't hear them planning because of the distance, but it was obvious they were plotting against me. I heard it's best to strike first. I gathered my weapons and headed to the roof, lighting and tossing firecrackers prepped for moments like these over the wall at them. The blasts echoed, making them jump and look around for me. I stayed hidden, not giving away my spot. The noise soon drew in roaming zombies. But they didn't even flinch. Bang, bang, bang. A few shots later, the zombies were down, and they were unharmed. Only Kai got bitten while trying to shield their bald boss from harm. And in disbelief, that bald guy shot him, ended him right there. Kai was nothing to them now, just like I was once. Seeing him discarded like that hit me hard. These guys are heartless maniacs. They only care for themselves. Human lives mean nothing. Seeing they had guns made me extra cautious, and I didn't hold back anymore. Using my higher ground advantage, I started tossing bottles of gasoline with nails over the wall. The bottles shattered, sending nails flying. A few of them got hurt. They were mad now. Following their leader's hint, they dodged the nails but fired at me. While avoiding bullets, they quickly scaled the wall and picked locks. Definitely seasoned criminals. They had all sorts of tools for the job. One guy climbed on the wall with a mattress as a shield. As soon as he reached the top, I fired a lit arrow, but the mattress didn't catch fire. Figures, they came ready with fireproof asbestos mats. A second ago they mocked my flaming arrow, but then were stunned by my second iron gate. 9. He climbed over the wall planning to open the gate for his buddies. But no sooner had he set foot on the ground than he got caught in the animal trap I hid in the grass. Apparently, Kai didn't warn them about my little surprise, and he didn't mention the second iron gate inside. The guy inside the wall screamed in pain, while their lock-picking expert had already popped open my lock. They didn't expect I'd added another hefty alloy lock to the handle inside. Until they deal with that, there's no getting in. The lock head is hidden behind the door, so there's no way they'll pick it easily. Through a crack, they noticed the second iron gate inside and, just then, saw an arrow flying straight toward one of their guys. With a loud thud, the arrow pierced his neck, leaving a bloody hole before embedding into the wall. The guy clutched his neck, staggering back with blood spurting, and his pals panicked, pulling back while firing at me. I nailed him with one shot and swiftly switched positions. There I was, hiding behind the rooftop wall, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I'd killed someone. My heart was racing, adrenaline pumping, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Amidst their gunfire and curses, I gradually calmed down. Out of their 10 guys, I've taken down 2. They have 8 left. They seemed scared of getting shot, so they didn't try to climb the wall again. The bald leader was sending his underlings to the car to fetch bolt cutters for my big chain. I quickly made my way downstairs and grabbed a new weapon from a room full of farming tools. They had guns, but I had a modified, large-caliber nail gun. I remember asking the shop owner for something to protect myself since I live alone. Initially, he said he only had farm tools. After spending a wad of cash, he recommended this. Apparently, folks usually modify this to hunt birds with an effective range of 50 meters. This one was his personal stash. My house isn't even 15 meters from the wall, so the range is more than enough. It was my first time using this nail gun. Recalling how the owner taught me, I aimed through a window crack at the guy trying to cut my chain. The gun fired with a loud bang, and the recoil made me fall flat on my backside. A sturdy nail had embedded into the guy's neck. Don't ask why the neck again, it's an easier target than the heart and deadlier. No ribs blocking it, making it a sensible choice for a newbie like me. The nail lodged in his neck, he sat there groaning, throat gurgling. Blood poured out with every pained breath. In this post-apocalyptic world, lacking medical help, that's a death sentence. The bald leader, furious, put the guy out of his misery with a shot to the head, then started spraying bullets at my house. Right after my shot, I changed positions, huddled behind a pillar, silent as a mouse, knowing I now had 7 opponents left. It was life or death, and I stayed hidden, waiting for the right moment. The leader, after venting his rage, decided to face me himself. A new guy took up the bolt cutters. Every time I peeked out, he spotted me, forcing me to duck back just before firing. Once, a bullet zipped by my face, leaving a bloody streak and embedding into the wall behind me. That shook me to my core, a near miss. It struck me then, this guy was a pro with guns. I was outmatched. The chain could be cut any moment, breaching the gate was inevitable. I had to rethink my defense. Wiping the blood off my face, I plotted frantically. A minute later, I put down the nail gun, picked up my recurve bow, and snuck to the second floor. With a snap, my alloy lock broke. They shoved the wall gate wide open. Lucky me, even the wind favored my side, blowing directly toward the gate. I quickly emptied a flour bag, letting the wind scatter the flour, obscuring their view. With a thermal scope, I spotted their red silhouettes and fired arrows rapidly. I kept shooting until my quiver was empty, then slumped under the windowsill, trembling hands taking a breather. The arrows' soft thuds went unnoticed amidst the flour cloud, blinding them. A few arrows hit the iron wall with clangs, followed by some painful cries. As the flour faded, a few silhouettes emerged by the iron gate. To the far left, one guy was writhing on the ground, an arrow in his thigh, bleeding profusely, must have hit a main artery. Next, the lock specialist lay dead, with arrows in his eye and chest, status unsure. Near the center, the bald leader had my focus. Despite everything, he was still standing. An arrow was lodged in his left arm, but at some point, he had pulled a woman in front of him. She was riddled with arrows in the neck, stomach, and thigh, blood everywhere, shielding him from death. To the leader's right, a guy had stepped in an animal trap, his right leg clamped tight, unable to move. Talk about unlucky luck. Far right was another couple, completely unscathed, since my arrows had missed and hit the wall instead. 10 seems like the scene scared the hell out of them. The woman screamed and made a run for the door, with the man right behind her. She didn't get far before the bald guy shot her in the head. It was brutal. The man moved fast, almost jumped on his bike, but just as he started it up, a bullet hit the gas tank, causing the bike to explode. I took advantage of the chaos, quietly pulled my bow, and fired. The bald guy was too alert though. He grabbed the female corpse to use as a shield, yelling and retreating cautiously. "I'll get you, you bitch," he shouted. I didn't respond, but my next arrow took down another guy caught in a bear trap. In just a moment, 6 out of 7 were down. I took a deep breath. The bald guy slid out of sight once he was past the wall. We faced off until dark. While he was hesitant, I threw gas-filled balloons near the door. They thudded when they hit the ground, but he thought it was nothing serious. Some burst on impact, but the cover of blood kept him unaware. The smell started drawing zombies from the shadows. He got into his SUV and shot them one by one. The gunshots continued for a while until they stopped after about 30 minutes. I had shown my hand, and I knew the bald guy was dangerous. I couldn't let my guard down. At 4:30 a.m., when people are most tired, he sneaked in. I pinched myself hard to stay alert and put my plan into action. I pretended not to see him, firing arrows randomly to lull him into a false sense of security. Just when he thought I couldn't hit him, flaming arrows flew his way. By the time he smelled the gasoline, it was too late. Arrow after flaming arrow lit up the gasoline covering the ground. With dry weather and a breeze, the flames rose high and trapped him. Blind to my position, he fired wildly. I kept hurling gasoline balloons, feeding the flames. Finally, he was quiet. I collapsed, trembling. Tears streamed down my face. I won. I kept my fortress. But I lost too. I killed humans instead of zombies. The weapons I used, nail guns, Molotovs, petrol bombs, they weren't for zombies. They were for people. The realization that humans are the scariest creatures hit me. I burned their bodies, not wanting to dirty my place. I took what I could from their cars, including a drone. I locked up and began a secluded life again, gardening, raising chickens, exercising, and practicing archery. A few days later, I decided to play with the drone. After charging it, I sent it up to scout for zombies. I didn't get far when I saw a group of 10 in a hurry. 8 large men in dark green camouflage surrounded an elderly woman and a little girl, protecting them as they retreated. Must have been a government squad. Only real soldiers would protect the weak like that. One of them seemed familiar. Before I could think more, I noticed a horde of zombies chasing them. Gunfire erupted as they tried to shoot the zombies, running low on ammo. A familiar figure signaled everyone to stop firing and pick up the pace. They noticed the drone, and familiar eyes met the camera. I was shocked. Even with the face paint concealing his features, those eyes looked like Nathan's. Instinctively, I controlled the drone to circle him, then bobbed toward the building, leading them. As if on cue, he and the team followed the drone. They got to my place, confused by my locked door and high walls. With zombies closing in, I tied the key to an arrow and shot it towards them. Nathan, quick on the uptake, grabbed the key and opened the door just as the zombies arrived. The zombies' growls and pounding were all they heard. Frustrated, the zombies clawed at the walls. One team member, eager to fight back, spoke up. "Captain, should we shoot?" Those Nathan-like eyes signaled otherwise. "No, this door's sturdy. They can't get in. Save ammo, just in case." Then, he gazed up at my window, as if trying to see me through the curtains. His voice stunned me. It was Nathan. On day 108 of the zombie outbreak, I truly saw him again. But after the shock, I came to my senses. Even if it was Nathan, there's nothing left between us. Saving them was the riskiest thing I'd done since coming back to this life. And I wasn't about to get involved any further. 11 after the last battle, I cleaned up the traps under the wall. Seeing them just staying there without making any moves, I didn't bother with them anymore. But half an hour later, the zombies outside the door didn't leave. Instead, they got even crazier. They were relentless, acting like they wouldn't stop until they caught someone. That wasn't right. Normally, if you stay quiet and hide, zombies will give up after a while and look for a new target. But this was off. Did these people have something on them attracting the zombies? Nathan realized something was wrong too. His smarts finally kicked in after a short break. Ever since they rescued someone, they've been chased by zombies. As the howls outside grew more desperate, Nathan immediately ordered us to shoot. The team members made human ladders, standing on the wall, to start shooting zombies. I grabbed my recurve bow, kept drawing and shooting. After taking out half the zombies, they still wouldn't retreat, trying desperately to get in. Nathan's team was running low on ammo and stopped shooting, and my arm was so sore I couldn't even pull back my bow. I frowned at the 10 people below. The soldiers were ready, watching the wall, prepared to fight. A little girl, scared, was sticking close to Nathan, like a little tail. Only the old woman sat by the wall, her eyes flickering. She was shaking, unable to control herself hearing the zombies. I had a suspicion and sent a note to Nathan with a drone. As strong as my front door was, it wouldn't hold up against a lot of zombies. I definitely wouldn't open the second iron door for them. Please check if anyone has something attracting the zombies, especially that old lady. My handwriting was shaky. I wasn't sure Nathan could read it. Soon, I saw Nathan talk to his soldiers, who immediately started stripping down to check. After checking the girl, he walked over to the old lady. She was trembling, not letting him near. With a wave from Nathan, 2 soldiers restrained her. A black plastic bag fell from her arms. Once opened, a strong rotting stench spread, and the zombies went even crazier. Everyone realized why the zombies kept chasing them. Nathan grabbed the bag and threw it over the wall. The zombies fought for the rotten meat. After that, though they stayed by the gate, they weren't as wild. Once the foul smell dispersed, most zombies wandered off, leaving only a couple sticking around. Later, a soldier behind Nathan asked the old lady in disbelief, with teary eyes, "Ma'am, why would you do this? We saved you, and you do this to us? Didn't you remember the 2 soldiers who got dragged away by zombies to save you? We rescued you from those cannibals, and this is how you repay us?" All the soldiers looked heartbroken. The old lady sobbed, covering her face. "My son and husband died while escaping, and those bastards killed my daughter-in-law. My grandson's my only family left. Did you think of those 2 soldiers' families? Did you think about us? How could you be so selfish?" The old lady was speechless, just apologizing through her tears. Saying sorry doesn't help. They'd say it 1,000,000 times if it did. But time can't rewind, and there's no cure for regret. I watched the conversation coldly, finally figuring it all out. It turned out my suspicion was right on point. There were drones going around saying the city's shelter was fixed, calling survivors to join, which was a trap. Those who went had their supplies stolen and became captives. Those people were ruthless. They kept useful ones and used the rest as zombie bait or food. The old lady and the girl got lucky, saved by Nathan's team just a day after getting duped. But the bad guys took the old lady's grandson and threatened her to carry the rotten meat bag to lure zombies on Nathan's team, letting the criminals escape. The zombies chased them due to that meat bag. The old lady kept it secret for a glimpse of her grandson. If they hadn't run into me today, they'd have been chased and killed by ignorance. Nobody expected this ending. Something clicked inside, and I went to the first floor, speaking to the old lady through a window. Were there men and women? Was the leader a bald guy? I briefly described those I killed. The old woman seemed agitated, nodding. "Where did they go? Did you see my grandson?" I was at a loss. I didn't see a boy. I only found remains in their car's fridge, which I burned. Now just the wreck remains on the street. I couldn't say that, so I said flatly, "They're dead." No kids were in the group. Nobody asked how they died. The bullet holes and burnt marks said it all. A war happened here. But now some soldiers looked at me differently. The old woman seemed to understand, quietly crying. It's hard to sympathize with someone dragging 2 soldiers down. The soldiers lost interest, ignoring her. Only Nathan kept his eyes on me since I started talking. 12 I knew he had found me. I hurried back to the 3rd floor like I was fleeing. I heard his shaky voice from downstairs. "Mila, is that you?" The soldiers began to talk excitedly. The person who saved them was the girl the captain had been looking for. I kept quiet, but Nathan downstairs kept repeating the question. The young soldiers next to him were teasing him non-stop. "Sis, the captain has been looking all over for his wife and finally found you. We broke up." My words silenced them for a moment, but they didn't give up and kept winking at Nathan. "Sis, the captain has been looking for you for so long, just forgive him." "Yeah." "Sis, the captain knows he was wrong. Please forgive him. Who knows how long it's been since these people ate or drank anything." With cracked and bleeding lips, stomachs growling with hunger, they still found the energy to laugh and joke around. Nathan, like a fool, kept repeating, "Mila, is that you?" I felt helpless, but also wanted to laugh, so I yanked open the curtain and shouted, "Yes, it's me." The moment our eyes met, this man, who had never cried in front of me, suddenly started bawling like a kid. "Mila, it's so good to see you're alive. I finally found you." My heart twisted, but I didn't know how to face him. All those moments we shared in our university days were sweet memories. My roommates often teased us for being so lovey-dovey, but I had taken money from his mom and broke up with him. We weren't meant to have a future together. Maybe this version of Nathan is innocent. He knows nothing, but I just couldn't let it go. Even now, knowing Nathan and the others wouldn't hurt me, I was too scared to open the door and face them. I'm always thinking about my own safety first. Even if it was Nathan downstairs, I couldn't fully trust him. Silence felt like the best rejection. Luckily, Nathan knew it wasn't the time for a reunion. Once he calmed down, I tossed him a rope. Through it, I sent them a large jug of water, some energy bars, and a bowl of freshly cooked quail eggs. My quails had just hatched a second batch, and the eggs from dozens of little quails were plenty. I had just boiled a pot of eggs with a spice pack I found. Nathan and his crew were lucky. Seeing the food and water made the soldiers really happy, and they thanked me over and over. I nodded and closed the curtain. After it got dark, one of the young soldiers fired a flare into the air. Once that was done, Nathan had them set up their sleeping bags and rest. I watched them orderly find spots and crawl into their bags, falling asleep quickly. Soon, their deep snores filled the air. Clearly, they were exhausted. After dropping blankets to a little girl and an old lady, I returned to my room. Nathan was cautious too, leaving watchmen through the night. That night was the best sleep I'd had since my rebirth. When I woke up, Nathan and his team were gone. They left a note on the iron gate and some supplies. "Mila, wait for me. I'll come back after I finish my mission. Please wait for me." I placed the note in my journal and returned to my reclusive life. As time went on, the broadcast on frequency 89.66 HMZ would bring good news each time. Zombies were being cleared in every province and city. Areas were being reclaimed and rebuilt. On the 285th day of the zombie outbreak, we achieved a breakthrough with our vaccine, and clinical trials began. By the 360th day, the zombie vaccine was officially launched and started being distributed globally to survivors. People who got the vaccine would be immune to zombification, no longer attacked by zombies, and wouldn't turn even if bitten. But those who were already zombies couldn't be cured, essentially dead. A worldwide effort to eradicate zombies began. By the 385th day, all zombie-turned animals in our country were wiped out. On the 400th day since the outbreak, the last zombie in the country was destroyed. With that, all zombie creatures in the country were completely eradicated. The nation celebrated and started rebuilding. On the 401st day, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, Nathan's familiar face greeted me. He was tanned and looked more mature, a scar behind his left ear. Dressed casually, holding a bouquet of roses, he smiled at me. Just like when he first confessed to me in college, he knelt on one knee, looking sincerely into my eyes. "Mila, will you be my girlfriend?" Remembering what happened with his mother, I hesitated. "I took your mom's money and promised her I'd break up with you. You'd really not care?" Nathan laughed. "After everything that happened this past year, my mom regrets what she did. She's been urging me to bring you home. But Mila, you know, I'm grateful to her. I'm beyond thankful you took the money and survived safely until now, otherwise, we might never have met again, like in the last life." I widened my eyes, suddenly understanding what Nathan meant. So he was reborn, just like me? Tears started to stream uncontrollably. "You knew?" Seeing me cry, Nathan couldn't hold back anymore and pulled me into his arms. I know everything. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have left you. So much happened last time. Can you forgive me?" By the time he finished speaking, I was sobbing. After calming down, I took the flowers, trying to keep a straight face as I questioned him. 13 Who was that talking when you called me last time?" Nathan asked with a knowing look. He quickly grabbed his phone and made a video call. "Mila, listen, it's a misunderstanding. I can explain." "Sis, hurry, help me explain to my girlfriend." Watching Nathan anxiously try to get the girl on the phone to explain, I couldn't help but kiss him. Finally, I'm not alone anymore, and it feels so good. The end. Nathan, bonus story 7 days before the zombie virus outbreak, my mom told me my grandpa in New Zealand was seriously ill and that I should visit him. 10 minutes before my flight took off, I got a call. As soon as I answered, I heard my mom and my girlfriend Mila talking. "There's 2 million in there. You know what that means, right? So your son is just worth 2 million to you? That's not even as much as what you're wearing today. 5 million, plus the watch, the necklace, and the earrings you're wearing. I don't want a card. Just transfer the money to me, or you can convert the watch and jewelry to cash, too." I was shocked even after their conversation ended. Was this really my beloved Mila talking like that? The same Mila who I felt guilty for spending $100 on a bag for? "Nathan, you heard it, right? I've told you Mila's just after your money. She wouldn't pass any test. She's just been playing hard to get." My mom and Mila's conversation left me all confused. The plane was about to take off, and I had to hang up quickly. I saw a breakup text from Mila. I wanted to call her back, but the flight attendant was already telling us to turn off our phones. Once the plane landed, I had to find out what was going on with Mila. The flight lasted around 12 hours. I was restless, thinking I wouldn't be able to sleep, but I fell asleep in minutes. I dreamt it was the same day again. I watched myself in a cafe outside Mila's house, invisible to everyone else. I saw Mila awkwardly greet my mom and refuse a card from her, looking ashamed and tearful. She tried to call me dozens of times, but couldn't get through. Watching her cry was unbearable, but I couldn't reach her. She couldn't see me. I remembered I worked late the night before and forgot to tell her about my trip. I watched her cry all night, then drag herself to work the next day. Later, I saw her get fired, lose her apartment, and struggle in New York. She searched for me every day, but could never find me. When the zombie virus broke out, she was by herself, scared, and hiding. She'd help others out of kindness, only to have her food and water stolen. She gave up her pride and self, sinking into despair just to survive. She kept writing my name, full of resentment, until she was pushed into a zombie horde and bit. And me? Where was I? The scene shifted, and I saw myself on that flight to New Zealand. The flight was early, and I never got Mila's call. I saw my mom's assistant secretly switch out my SIM card on the flight while I was asleep. Once the plane landed in New Zealand, I tried to contact Mila, but the assistant stole my phone in the busy terminal. Losing my phone was gut-wrenching. I tried to call Mila internationally, but couldn't get through. I remembered we set up spam filters because of prank calls before we graduated, so my international calls were blocked. It was tough to replace a SIM card abroad. I planned to return and talk to Mila in a few days, but the zombie virus spread. I was stuck in New Zealand. My grandpa then told me he hadn't been sick at all. It was all a ruse by my mom just because she disliked Mila. Mila's job loss and eviction were orchestrated by my mom to push her away. I was devastated, desperate to confront my mom, but I couldn't reach her or Mila. My grandparents' farm in New Zealand, far from the city, with its resources and sustained us through the apocalypse. 10 years passed before society recovered and international flights resumed. After my grandparents passed away in the 8th year of the apocalypse, I finally returned home, only to find neither my mom nor Mila. I searched my whole life, filled with regret and never at peace. Scenes kept replaying a cycle over and over. I watched Mila reject my mom, boarded the plane, the zombie outbreak happened, Mila died, I was stuck abroad, and we never met again. But this time, Mila changed, she took my mom's money and broke up with me. I suddenly woke up, drenched in sweat. The dream felt so real, more like a memory. I looked at my sleeping assistant, trembling, and checked my phone. The SIM card was swapped. A wave of emotions hit me, but I couldn't act hastily. Was the future like the dream? Would the zombie virus really happen? I had to find out. I acted asleep until the plane landed. After exiting the terminal, trying to reach Mila, my assistant interrupted just like in the dream. Moments later, I lost my phone. Everything mirrored my dream perfectly. My hand trembled beneath my sleeve. 14, I borrowed my assistant's phone to call my dad and told him about my dream, focusing on this zombie virus that was about to explode. With his help, I convinced my grandparents to get the next flight back home. I felt at ease only when we stood at the airport in New York again. After settling them in, I wanted to find Mila, but I just couldn't locate her. Time was running out, with less than 4 days before the virus outbreak, and I was beyond anxious. My dad's a military man, and he cared more about the zombie virus than my personal issues. He said that when humanity's at risk, personal problems don't really matter. Trusting me was a big risk for him, but for something that hadn't happened yet, all he could do was try to prevent it as best as he could. Dad told Mom to stock up on supplies and kept me at the army base, cutting off my external contacts. He gave me paper and a pen and asked me to detail everything about the virus. I couldn't argue or escape, so I wrote down everything I could recall from the dream about zombies, their traits, weaknesses, how the virus spreads, and the scientist who later developed the vaccine. After taking that info, Dad still kept me at the base until 2 days later, when some local news reported some biting incidents. He finally came back to me. Nathan, your dream might be real. We've set up a research team to handle the zombie virus, and you'll be a special advisor. Dad, what about Mila? I want to find Mila. Nathan, the country needs you now. Didn't you want to be a soldier and serve your country? Mila isn't in New York anymore, she got a ticket to Yunnan. Please understand, I can't let you leave now. I also found that she used an anonymous IP to post a message on different platforms. Here, take a look. I think she, like you, got the news early. I believe she's a smart girl, she'll be okay. I was shocked reading Mila's apocalypse warning message. Did she dream the same thing as me? So this time she made a different choice? Choosing between oneself or the country is always tough, and in the end, I stayed silent at the base. The zombie virus outbreak happened sooner than in my memory, catching everyone off guard. The New York government promoted my dad to fully manage the city's defense and gave me major commanding authority. I quickly mobilized all media to inform the public about zombies' weaknesses and how to deal with and avoid them. Shelters that were put on hold initially got quickly built. I was so busy, I hardly got any sleep. The day the virus fully exploded, I was busy until late at night. I finally borrowed a phone and couldn't resist calling Mila's number. The ringtone seemed to go on forever, and my heart was racing until it finally connected. Mila, are you alright? But before Mila could answer, I accidentally woke up the sister of a bio-research expert who was sleeping next to me. Since the biting incidents, my dad had gathered all the experts I'd named to form a special bio-research team. We lived together, men and women, laying on the floor. But the moment she spoke, Mila hung up. I was stunned. The sister noticed my expression was off. Nathan, what happened? I was anxious and tried calling back, only to find I'd been blocked. I looked helplessly at her. Sis, my girlfriend may have misunderstood. If we see each other in the future, please help explain. She nodded awkwardly. Don't worry, Nathan, I'll help clear it up. Before we could finish talking, a new virus sample came in and everyone got up right away to start experimenting. Though I wasn't an expert, I was the one who knew the most about the virus. I worked non-stop for a month, but couldn't help anymore with the vaccine research. I went back to helping Dad finish the shelters. Communication lines had long been down. I couldn't hold it anymore one day and begged the broadcaster to let me take over. When I finished, I used the time to search for Mila. Though Dad scolded me for using public resources, locking me up for 3 days, I didn't know if she heard me. I just wanted to let her know I'd wait for her. 3 months after the outbreak, New York's shelters were finally stable. I found Dad and asked to go to Yunnan to join the fight against the zombies. Dad knew I was looking for Mila and didn't stop me. I believed she was alive, and if she wasn't coming to me, then I'd go to her. I traveled all over Yunnan, saving anyone trapped I found. I was scared to find her, yet scared not to. I was terrified she'd be a corpse or a mindless zombie when I did. I was afraid she'd be suffering like in my dream. I often comforted myself, no news is good news, even if I was deceiving myself. I figured I'd keep searching like I did in my dream until my dying day. But the heavens didn't let me down. We met in a miraculous way when I saved an old lady and a child with my squad. We'd been running for a day and a night, and the zombies chasing us were only increasing. Our ammo was nearly gone, and we'd lost 2 members. I was trying to lead the others to break through but didn't know where to go. While I was thinking of staying behind to cover our escape, a drone appeared. It circled us twice and blinked some lights. Miraculously, I understood that it wanted us to follow. I led the squad with the drone and found refuge in a strange little building. 15 The owner of the small building hadn't shown up, not until the zombies got even more aggressive. Then, I got this scribbled note. The handwriting looked familiar, but I couldn't be sure. No one knew my hand was shaking while holding that note. I forced myself to stay calm and followed her instructions to conduct a search. Turns out, the old lady was indeed up to something. I barely listened to the soldier's conversation with her. I kept asking in my heart, is it you? Finally, when the talks were over, I heard her voice. I never imagined the person I've been longing to find was just beyond this wall. She even saved my life. My lips curved into a smile, though my eyes welled up. I'd finally found Mila. Seeing her safe brought an indescribable peace to my heart. But it's not time for us to reunite yet. I had a flare sent up, and the next morning, First Light brought us our backup. I told Mila to wait for me, to wait until I completed my mission. Once the zombie virus is wiped out, I'll come find her again. I believe after 9 lifetimes of searching, we'll finally have our happy ending this time. The end.